Hi, welcome to the world of psychology. We are starting with the first theory applicable for treatment of mental patients. Freud was the first psychologist who postulated treatment of patients suffering with problems originating due to psychological reasons. He introduced the method of psychoanalysis. This made it possible for other psychologists to work in the new area of treatment for mental problems. Freud was the first one to propose that many of the physical symptoms are actually manifestations of mental problems or agony. This is the first therapy we are sending to you via email with others with their video, and we have the intention of making it easier for you to enter in the very interesting world of psychology. This chapter 4, Freud, is quite detailed and covers some of the other significant psychologists who worked with Freud first and then separated from him to formulate their own theories, thus taking the subject further on the path of growth related to treatment of psychologically originating problems. The extensive notes are not to confuse or overwhelm you. It is to prepare your entry into this very interesting but challenging field. To make it easier, especially for students from other streams like commerce or arts or science, other than psychology, I have divided the matter into two parts. This video is part 1, and we are now entering into chapter 4 with part 1 video. I would like you to keep your notes ready with you so that whenever I give you the reference of referring to the notes, then you will be able to relate to what I am talking about with your notes with Freud, and this is part 1 of the chapter 4. As the originator of psychoanalysis, Freud distinguished himself as an intellectual giant. His views continued to influence contemporary practice of psychotherapy. His system is model of personality development, a philosophy of human nature, and methodology of psychotherapy. This theory postulates that at present behavior, the behavior which the person is manifesting right now in front of you or in his life, actually is far more complex than it was earlier imagined. Our behavior is determined by irrational forces, unconscious motivations, biological and instinctual drives, as these evolve through psychosexual stages in the first 6 years of life. What is libido? This is referred to your page 3 in the notes. Now, libido refers to sexual energy, includes energy of all the life instinct. These serve for purpose of survival, growth, development, and creativity. Libido has a source of energy, and it is very important as a motivational drive. Freud includes all pleasurable acts in concept of life instincts. He stressed the goal of life as gaining pleasure and avoiding pain. The entire life is all rotating around this main concept, which is given by Freud as gaining pleasure and avoiding pain, is the basis of all the activities that we observe around us among people. He postulates death instinct, which accounts aggressive drive. In his view, both the sexual and aggressive drives are main determinants prompting people's behavior. Structure of personality, as explained by Freud. As per his theory, personality consists of three systems: the id, the ego, and the superego. This interact and form the whole personality. That means that every individual has all the three parts in his personality: the id, the ego, and the superego. Id is the biological component, ego the psychological component, and superego is the social component. This is very well explained on your page 4. So refer to your notes to read in detail about id, ego, and superego, which are one of the primary concepts developed by Freud. Consciousness and unconsciousness. For Freud, consciousness is the thin layer forming. It's a thin layer forming the upper layer of the mind. Like the iceberg, we say that consciousness is only 1/10 of what actually the mind is made up of. The unconscious, which is the major part of mind that exists below the surface of awareness. It stores all experiences and memories and repressed material starting right from the infancy. This is out of awareness. So we do not remember what we experienced in our early childhood, but it is there in the unconscious mind. And now the new thought is that not only what is experienced by the person after his birth, but also what he has experienced earlier in his prenatal condition is also stored in his mind. Besides that, one step further, some psychologists also believe that all throughout the history of evolution, whatever the human beings have learned has been stored via their genes, which are carried by their chromosomes in their unconscious mind. Thus, the aim of psychoanalytical theory is to make unconscious motives conscious. So, the most important thing in Freud's theory is we are trying to understand unconscious, and whatever the processes are happening due to unconscious behavior is to be made conscious to bring about the change. For then only one can exercise choice and break the bondage of imposed behavior. Clients need to cling to old patterns must be changed to bring about the change. To bring about the change, the client's old patterns must undergo change. The other very important concept of Freud's theory is dealing with the anxieties that very much interfere with our regular life. Now, what are these anxieties and how we human beings have learned to deal with these anxieties? Anxiety is a state of tension that motivates us to act in certain way. It develops due to conflicts between the id, ego, and superego to gain control over available psychic energy. So you see how important it is for you to understand the concept of id, ego, and talk about anxieties, how we experience them and how we learn to manage them, because otherwise they will make our life quite difficult to live and to also deal with other people, because we are social animals and we learn to live with other people. So we need to also manage our anxieties. It is a state of tension that motivates us to act in certain way. It develops due to conflict between the id, ego and superego, as I told you earlier, and to gain control over available psychic energy. The psychic energy is distributed among id, ego and superego. But when we are experiencing anxiety, there is a conflict between these three to gain more of the psychological energy towards them, and that interferes with our normal life. It functions is to warn of impending danger. Means why the anxieties are existing is because we are warned against the impending danger. And all the things that we are going to now learn about defense mechanisms which help us to deal with these anxieties are actually helping us to deal with these impending dangers. There are three types of anxieties. So please read your page 5 of the notes and you will be getting the explanation about the three different types of anxieties we normally experience. People with well-developed conscience tend to feel guilty when they do something against their moral code. When people cannot control anxiety, that disturbs ego balance by rational and direct methods, for example, admission of guilt or correction of behavior. They rely on ego defense mechanisms which help them to cope with anxiety. So these ego defense mechanisms are not pathological. They are not making you sick. They are only helping you temporarily to get over the anxiety situations. But they are accepted as norm behavior. Defense mechanisms either deny or they are distorted reality. They are capable of distorting the realities temporarily. They operate on an unconscious level. So we don't consciously apply the defense mechanisms. It is unconscious, and after some use, these defense mechanisms become the part of the person's personality. It becomes a part of the person's character. Some of the common defense mechanisms are as follows. I will try to make it easier for you to understand them better. You will be able to see this applied all around you. So you learn about the defense mechanism and you will be able to understand the people's behavior and why do they behave in that certain way. Now the first one of that is repression. Freud explains it as an involuntary removal from consciousness. I'll give you an example of Jigna. Jigna repressed her love for Jayan because she did not want to invite her family's wrath for having such feelings for a boy who is from a different community, because she knew very well that he will not be accepted by his family. Now, the second of the defense mechanism is denial. This operates at pre-conscious or conscious level. For example, Rakesh was having an affair with his wife's friend Rima. His wife's name is Rima and his girlfriend's name is Sonal. Though everyone was aware of this, Rima was not ready to believe or accept this. So this was the denial on part of Rima, because it would be very, very painful for her to accept the fact that her own husband was having an affair with her friend Sonal, who she trusted. She trusted both of them. But to be exposed to this kind of a behavior of her husband as well as her friend would have been a very traumatic situation for her. Then the third one of the defense mechanism we see here is reaction formation. Express impulse that is exactly opposite of threatening feeling. For example, Mukesh was conscious of his fears of facing bullies. Actually, he would always avoid facing any bullies. He was often heard telling his friends about how he outwitted a man who picked up fight with him on the road. He often boasted about his strength that was much beyond his small physical frame and underweight body. So actually he was not able to face the bullies, but to meet with his anxiety about admitting it, he would boast about his strength in front of his friends. Let's see the mechanism of projection. This is a defense mechanism which is also very commonly seen around us. This is self-deception that consists of attributing to others what is our own unacceptable drives or impulses. For example, Reena found that a new boy had come to live in the opposite building. She noticed him living there, doing his things like exercising or talking on the cell phone or studying, laughing, etc. Occasionally she would see him looking out of his window. She was found telling to her friends that this new boy in the opposite house is the boy who was staying in the opposite house. She was found telling about him to her friends that he is watching my house. I think he is interested in me and wants to make friends with me, but I am not interested. Don't know what kind of boy he is. So this was her defense against her real wish of being able to talk to that boy and making friends with him. Now we go to the next of the defense mechanism, which is a displacement. Here the person discharges disturbing impulses by shifting it from the threatened or threatening objects to a safer target. Let me give an example of Kavita. Kavita's mother called her and told her about the news she got from internet, which expressed fear of some terrorists moving about in the city. Kavita dismissed her mother's fears, telling her she should not get affected by such rumors. Soon, her daughter came to inform her that she is leaving for her classes. Kavita immediately told her to remain at home, telling her that terrorists have entered the city and it won't be safe for her to go out. You can see how the feelings she really experienced, that just without validating or fully believing in her, she displaced it to her daughter. So this is how the displacement of feelings work. We very often see the displacement of anger in our life all around us, like people who are really angry with someone are not able to express their anger towards that person and that anger is displaced and passed on to some softer target which they know is not going to back answer them or not going to retaliate to their anger. Now let's see the next defense mechanism, and that is about rationalization. This is a defense mechanism, helps in real rationalizing one's failures, losses, disappointments, or being wrong or corrupt. By giving some logical excuse or continue themselves that it is okay to be like that, as it is quite common practice. Everybody is doing it, so why can't I? For example, manipulating accounts to avoid paying taxes and then trying to hide one's guilt by arguing that everyone does it, to convince oneself that it is legitimate and okay to cheat like that. The next mechanism we see is regression. Now, regression is the word which is opposite of progression. So we here see that people go backwards, reverting to a form of behavior that they have outgrown. They regress to an earlier phase of development where the demands are not so great and they can very easily reach it and very easily fulfill it. These may be inappropriate and immature behaviors for their age, but to meet with their disturbances, with their anxiety, they are adapting to regression. For example, the anxiety related to growing old is so great in some people that they try to act and adapt behavior and styles of the earlier age. For example, a middle-aged woman starts wearing dresses suitable for youngsters, change makeup or hairstyles, starts making friends with younger people and start copying their style. You must have seen even some people start using the slangs and new forms of expression in their words, in their talking. This way they regress and try to cope with their anxiety about growing old. We now go to the next defense mechanism of introjections. This consists of taking in and swallowing the values, standards, style, and behavior of others. For example, in a political party, many of the followers introject their leaders. They adapt their style, their values, and their behavior. They start talking like them. Some of them, even you will see, are talking in the same kind of voice. Many youngsters introject their idols and swallow the values, styles of their idols, also imagining to reach their standards. So they actually want to reach the standards of their idols, and they think that by just adapting their style or the behavior and the way they talk, the way they move, the way they think, also their thoughts also are introjected. So actually they are not really advancing themselves to those standards, but they are just adapting, swallowing their styles and thinking that they have become that. Then comes the next defense mechanism of identification. People who feel basically inferior may identify themselves with successful causes, organizations, or people in the hope that they will be perceived as worthwhile. For example, Jyoti was a wife of a rich businessman. She was free most of the time and did not know what to do with her time. She did not feel she was doing anything of value. she felt wasted and useless, who was not wanting or remembered by anyone. To prevent her from getting deeper into her negative feelings, her sister made her a member of an organization which was involved in helping women in need. Jyoti very soon got deeply involved with the work of the organization. This gave her the identity of being useful and built her personality that was in line of her chosen work through the organization. And you will be seeing this also all around us. The identification is very, very common. People also try to identify with the film stars or with with their idols in their teachers, or it can be even some professional or neighbors or whoever. So they adapt their styles and try to raise their own ego standard to meet and cope with their ego anxieties. Then we go to the next mechanism, and that is compensation. This consists of masking perceived weaknesses, of developing contained positive traits to make up for one's limitations. For example, the husband who is unfaithful to his wife may try to hide his affair by showering lovely comments and gifts to his wife. I'll give you another example. Daughters in the families where they are considered the weaker sex and expected to be dependent may try hard and outshine their male siblings by performing better in studies and getting into better jobs, earning more, and thus in this manner they are compensating for their being females, trying to prove to be stronger sex than the male counterparts. Then we come to our last of the defense mechanisms for today, and that is sublimation. Here the aggressiveness and sexual energy is directed into creative and socially acceptable behaviors. For example, aggressive impulses directed into athletic activities which are very much accepted in the social environment. This way the person can earn the praise as well as appreciation from his surrounding, from his people around them. And this will actually be camouflaging his inability to score better in studies and unable to achieve on other areas. So it all depends on what the person chooses to be. According to Freud, most of the creativity and most of the writing work, poets, etc., is a result of this kind of sublimation of their anxieties, which are actually created with some kind of lacking that they experience. So with this, we are coming to an end of the video part 1, which is connected with chapter 4 about Freud and his theory of psychoanalysis, and we will be continuing in the second part, where we will be discussing about the Freud's contemporaries. Thank you.